Today I will be turning myself into the Wicked Witch of the West, so please stick around. Hi friends, my name is Claire and this is my channel, Woodshed Theory. Here, I make content about what it is like to live as an adult on the autism spectrum and whatever else feels good to me. So if that sounds good to you, or if you're feeling particularly gracious today, and I hope that you are, please go ahead and click the subscribe button, ring the bell. I almost forgot to mention that I put out videos a few times a week, so click the like and the share. Help out your good friend Claire. Today I am coming at you because in a few days it is Halloween and my costume is in literal pieces. I am not that far behind this year though. I have already made my dog's costume to match my costume. This year I'm going as a group costume with my dog. I will be a version of the Wicked Witch of the West from The Wizard of Oz, more nodding towards the original movie. My dog is going as a flying monkey, one of the sidekicks of the Wicked Witch. If you haven't already, I did make him a costume and I made a video about it. Very cute, so please check that video out if you haven't already. As far as my Wicked Witch costume, I have decided that I'm going to take a lot of shortcuts, the easy way out, per se. I'm going to use pieces that I already have to put the costume together. The only thing that needs to be sewn, to my knowledge so far, is I want to sew a new witch hat. I do have this one, which is like a knit witch hat. It's very popular, lots of people have them. I love wearing it. To me, this is more of the everyday witch hat, you know? Grocery shopping, a walk in the park, your everyday witch hat. The hat that the Wicked Witch of the West wears is much more pronounced. It's got the, you know, straight up point and the brim is bigger. So I thought I would give it a go and make my own witch hat. First, I wanted to show you what pieces of the costume I have and then what materials I have to sew the hat. The biggest part of the costume is a black dress. This was actually given to me, so that's gonna kind of be the base of the dress. And it has puff sleeves already, which is great. I also ordered from Amazon, I haven't even opened it yet, a black turtleneck, kind of mock turtleneck. The witch's dress in the pictures has basically a short, like, mock turtleneck collar. And then I think it might have some buttons or a tie. And then if I wear this underneath that dress, it'll give me the long sleeves that I'm looking for, but then it'll still have the puff sleeves on top. And then I was going to keep my hair just back in a bun, but I remembered that a friend of mine had given me a bag of wigs a few years ago, and it's just been sitting in my closet, and I thought, I wonder if there's a dark wig in there I could wear. There was. For the hat, I went and purchased a hat pattern from Etsy. I will go ahead and link that pattern in the description. So that's what I'll be making over the next few days. For the hat, I have about 1.5 yards maybe of the most beautiful black velvet. I actually thrifted this fabric. Only additional things I purchased. I got 2 yards of black tulle because in the pictures, I think she had like a veil, like a black piece of tulle or fabric coming off the back of her hat. Then I got a remnant of this stretchy maroon merlot colored fabric, and that's going to be the lining of the hat. And then I bought 2 yards of really thick craft interfacing. It's a fusible interfacing. That should make the hat stiffer and make it stand up more, stand out, so it won't flop. And then I also got some floral wire to possibly put around the edge of the hat. There's actually wire in this hat too. I didn't make this hat, as I said, but That way it holds its shape better. So those are all the pieces that I got. As you can see, mostly it's just going to be a matter of putting together pieces I already had, but I did want to do a video of me attempting to make the hat in case it would inspire anybody else to give it a go. I did measure my head and printed out size 1 and 0 to 5 for this pattern, and I was in between sizes, so they suggested sizing up. We'll see. So I guess the first thing to do would be to get all the fabric cut out and then get started. Let's go. Who doesn't love a cutting montage? Here I am cutting out all the pieces that I am going to need for this hat, including the lining and the interfacing, very important. And then I moved on to adding the interfaces to the back of all of the pieces using a hot steam iron. Here I am putting the interfacing on the cone part of the hat and then on the lining part of the hat. Then I clipped both the outer and lining pieces of the cone together, marked off where I needed to sew. I did need to leave a hole in the lining so I could flip everything inside out, and sewed up the cone pieces and then trimmed off all of the extra seam allowance with some pinking shears. Then it was time to turn out the cones. I used a knitting needle to make sure the point was nice and sharp. This was probably the hardest part of the project, pinning in the cone section to the brim of the hat. You might notice I switched from pins to clips because I kept stabbing myself on accident with the pins. But after I got everything clipped in and semi-fitting appropriately, I was ready to switch over to sewing it together. It's going pretty well. Right now it looks like a witch's summer hat, but I was able to get this part sewn on. Now you can see why the wire that's going to go around the rim is going to be a very important part. After it was all sewn together, I put the two main pieces of the hat facing right sides together and clipped the brim, and then sewed all the way around the brim in a big circle. This was probably the most fun part of the entire project. And here's me checking out what it looks like. I was pretty impressed at how it was standing up at this point. Now it was time to flip everything inside out, which wasn't as hard as I thought it would be, but I did forget to trim the seam allowance off the entire brim, so I had to flip it back inside out. I think that there's a moment here where I'm realizing that I have to do that. Good morning, my friends. There's stuff everywhere. Good morning. How are you? Update from yesterday. This project is going a lot better than anticipated. I don't know why I thought this was going to be particularly difficult. Coffee. But in general, this is going super well. That being said, here's where we're at right now. I mean, it's pretty much done. You might be thinking, Claire, what else is there to do? I could see that. Right now, all that's left to do is to put the wire around the brim. It should hold the hat's shape. The other thing I have to do is close up the hole in the lining. But I noticed last night that I need to fix something. I accidentally got too close to the lining in one spot with the sewing. There's a bit of a hole there. Probably not showing it well. There, you can see it. Because of that, I'll flip this back inside out and sew that seam one more time to make sure that that is all closed off. I'll go ahead and fix that. Things I would suggest, I'm really happy that For most of the hat, I used a craft interfacing, a fusible craft interfacing. It is a lot thicker than a clothing interfacing, fusible interfacing. So I would definitely recommend that. That's why this is able to hold up so well. I also used interfacing on both sides of the hat. So it's holding up a lot stiffer, I think, than if there was just one layer of interfacing in there. Part that didn't come out as well is the lining. I do have to sew up that little hole, but if you can see right here, some of the lining is sewn over on itself. The issue that I was having, I could not for the life of me get it to fit correctly. I used a stretchy fabric for this, but I put the stretchy fabric on a normal weight clothing fusible interfacing so it wouldn't be stretchy anymore. But what happened when I was trying to pin this in place, the interfacing started to come off of the edges and that got really messy. I just couldn't get it to fit correctly. It doesn't really matter because nobody's ever going to see it, and if somebody just glanced at it, they'd be like, that's fine. But I'm letting you know that if I did this again, I would not use necessarily a stretchy fabric. I would use a non-stretch fabric. I still might use a regular interfacing because I don't know that there needs to be like a super like double thick layer of craft interfacing on the top. That's the only part I'm not happy with, but it looks, I mean, it looks really good. I just think I could have done it better. I'm gonna fix what I can of the lining today, and then I'll switch over to the brim. What we're gonna do is put wire around the brim inside and then sew that wire in place. This is where we're at. I'm about to put the wire into the brim. I went ahead, I fixed the lining, turned it inside out, put a tea towel over the hat, and then ironed the brim down as flat as I could get it so that there's a defined shape when I'm putting the wire in. For the wire, I'm using floral wire, and in retrospect, I should have gotten something thicker. I may double this up. I'm not sure yet. It is 1.25 pound gauge florist wire. I did end up doubling the wire and then started inserting it into the edge of the brim and then clipping it in place little by little as I went to make sure that it didn't move around. Once the wire was in place, I swapped out my normal foot on my sewing machine for the zipper foot because the instructions I was using said that that might make it easier to get the seam close to the wire. So here I am sewing slowly around the brim of the hat and enclosing the wire into the hat. At this point, all that was left to do was sew up the hole in the lining. I just used a quick whip stitch for that in a matching color. And the hat, my friends, was complete. So it looks exactly the same as the last time I showed you, but now it's finished. Let me try it on. Not bad. It's certainly huge. I thought it wasn't going to be this big. The wire helps a lot with keeping the brim flat. In retrospect, I would have gotten a thicker wire. The only things I have left to do now is I have tulle, and I noticed that in the pictures she's kind of wearing a sash that comes back off the back of the hat like this. Also, this is pretty bulky, the tulle, so I might cut it in half so it's not as bulky, or I might just pin it to the back like that. That might be a better look. So the next time you see me, I think I will probably be dressed up in the entire costume and I will be showing you what I put together. And that's basically it. Super easy costume. I did want to say, as far as the pattern went for this, I will link the pattern down below. It's an Etsy pattern from a small creator. I liked the pattern. It fits great. The instructions that it comes with is a YouTube video, which I also like. I'm more of a visual learner. The only thing I will say is for some reason the print off PDF of the pattern was on 16 pages and it didn't have to be. So if I had any critique, I would say maybe they could adjust that in the future. But in general, I thought that the instructions were super clear. The video was very helpful. And this is exactly what I was thinking I wanted to make. And it took me a while to find a pattern just like I wanted to make. So I was impressed with that. So without further ado, here is my Wicked Witch costume. I'll get you, my pretty. I'm pretty impressed with how everything came out. I'll take a quick second to go through the pieces of the costume and how I feel about them. Let's start off with the obvious. Green makeup. I did decide I was not gonna do paint. I just felt like that was gonna be, for me personally, not a great time. But what I did have was a lot of different green eyeshadows. So to get this look, I started with like a very light yellow green eyeshadow all over. And then I contoured with darker green. And then I highlighted with a green shimmer, green on the eyes, black in the eyebrows, dark purple with black eyeshadow over it on the lips. So it's not a solid green look, but if somebody looked at you for the purpose of a costume, they would think that is a green person. So I'd say we're winning there. Of course, we have the hat that we worked on together. The only issue I'm having with the hat is because I'm wearing it over a wig, you can kind of see the lining because it's not fitting as snugly if it was just on my head. But who really cares? The hat came out great. It looks beautiful. It's a velvet witch hat. I did decide to cut the tulle piece in half long ways and then sew a seam up the center so that it would be twice as long and 50% less wide, so that it's not as bulky here and it's longer out the back like the original costume. I have mixed thoughts about the wig, but I decided to keep it on because I do think it does give more of a witchy look than the blonde. But this looks cool too. This is just a different version. Different version of the Wicked Witch. So maybe for the actual holiday, I'll pull it back in a little bun. I'm not sure yet, but I think that the wig does help in the overall look. Then I have the black shirt that was ordered from Amazon. As you can see, it makes the dress that I have look like the cut of the original costume. Then of course I've got the black dress on over that. And I've got black tights and some brown boots on. They don't really match, but who cares? It's gonna be dark. Overall, I'm really happy with how the costume turned out. I do think if somebody saw me, they would think Wicked Witch of the West or Alphaba if you're more into the Wicked franchise. Or they might just think generic witch, which is also fine. I think once I'm next to my dog in this flying monkey costume, there'll be no question as to who I'm dressed up as. I hope I've inspired you to be creative. If you are celebrating this year, I hope I've given you some ideas of maybe what you could do to dress up. Be creative, be crafty, use what you have, and add a few bits and you can put together a really cool costume. I guess that's it, friends. I hope that you have a very happy Halloween. I hope that you will check out the other Halloween videos that I made this year, making my dog's Halloween costume and showing you some Halloween costumes or costumes in general that I have sewn myself. Have a wonderful holiday and I will see you next time. Happy Halloween!